afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us as we have an extremely insightful conversation with our partners at Enbridge, who will be sharing with you all the most recent plans and amazing strategy that they have with the Innovation Lab at Enbridge Technology. You will hear from folks that are part of the team, folks that are part of the recruiting team, and we'll be able to share with you all what's needed, obviously, in order to join the team, but more importantly, what you will have the opportunity to do by becoming part of this amazing organization. We will give it a start with a land of acknowledgement. In the spirit and intent of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's recommendation at the beginning of all Hispanotech meeting, we acknowledge the traditional indigenous territory on which we gather. By learning, understanding, and acknowledging, we wish to pay respect to Turtle Island, Mother Earth, and to rich indigenous history of Ontario. We recognize that our work takes place on traditional indigenous territories across Canada. We also wish to acknowledge that this meeting is taking place on the traditional indigenous territory of the Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and most recently, the territory of Mississaugas of the Credit. This territory is part of the Dish with One Spoon Treaty, an agreement between the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and allied nations to peacefully share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. This territory is also covered by the Upper Canada Treaties. We wish to express our gratitude to Mother Earth for the resources we are using and honor all First Nation, Métis, and Inuit people who have been living on this land since time immemorial. Taronko, Turtle Island. So with this, we give start to our event. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to put them in the chat. We will make sure that by the end of this conversation, our panel members are going to address them. Feel free to ask as many questions as you want. I think it's very important to clarify any doubts that you could have in order to make this a better conversation for us all. We will hear from Guillermo Franco. Guillermo is an accelerator lead, technology and innovation lab. A Hispanic professional himself, Guillermo's experience of 20 plus years is on the people side of technology space. As a lead for the accelerator team in the technology and innovation lab at Enbridge, his portfolio includes workforce and capacity planning, technical recruitment, internal communications, culture development, and employee engagement. Anjali Bangai, Manager IT Strategic Planning. As a dynamic technology leader, Anjali is fueled by passion for innovation and unwavering commitment to organizational success. With over 20 plus years of experience in implementing cutting-edge technology vision, strategy, and product management, she leads a high-performing team focused on enterprise architecture, strategic planning. Amit Mann, Talent Acquisition Analyst. Amit has been with Enbridge for over 8 years. When recruiting, he strives to find top talent while keeping diversity and inclusion at the forefront. His role is to connect with our hiring leaders to ensure he understands exactly what skill set, education they are looking for in putting together a job posting. Amit then goes through the process of shortlisting candidates, pre-screening candidates, and setting up interviews with hiring leaders, and finally, finding ideal hires. Without further ado, I'll let you guys lead the conversation and enlighten everyone with what's happening at Enbridge.
Oh, Guillermo, you're on mute.
Thank you, Penny. Okay, well, thank you very much for the introduction, and it's an honor for me to be sharing a little bit about our organization with this organization, as I understand, is conformed by professionals of Hispanic heritage like myself. So as you can imagine, this hits close to home for me, and it's a very big honor to be doing this. We're going to start with talking a little bit about because I'm not sure if how familiar you all are with Enbridge, the organization. I think that the first slide after this one, Penny, if you would move me to the next one, please, has information about Enbridge. Can you go to the next slide?
Sorry, I realized that it's not sharing the full screen. So I'm going to apologize. Let me just see if I can pause sharing. I thought I had this figured out. My apologies.
Technology.
Yes. I'm just going to share my screen. It's going to be easier.
Yeah.
There you go. Screen one, share, and then can you see the full slide deck now? Okay, perfect.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Let me just minimize my, okay, good stuff. All right, so in order to get us on the same page, let's talk a little bit about Enbridge, the company first. As you may or may not already know, Enbridge has been around for over 70 years. We are a Canadian company, and even though traditionally our business has been mostly in the pipeline sector, which we'll call the transportation part of our business portfolio. We are not only pipelines, although that is probably our main business and what we've been known for for most of those 70 years. However, besides that, we also dabble in the energy generation department, and our portfolio includes, as you can see there, both onshore and offshore wind, solar, and geothermal projects in North America and Europe. And just to give you an idea, in terms of investment in renewables, at this point, over the last 9 years or so, we have invested over $8 billion in the renewable sector. We own about 32 solar farms and 43, I believe, wind farms as well. Besides that, the company has also diversified into the energy distribution sector, and by acquiring a couple of gas utility companies in Eastern Canada. So for those of you in Ontario, you may be familiar with Enbridge Gas. That's another one of our subsidiaries. So the company, for a company that's 70 years old in a very traditional type of industry, I have to say that my perception is the company is quite progressive thinking and visionary, as they have been able to diversify and look ahead in time and think of ways, devise ways to diversify the business in order to stay relevant. And if we could go to the next slide, please. We also, as you can see here, Enbridge is very serious about their ESG goals. ESG standing for environmental, social, and governance type goals. And as you can see, some of the examples there, by 2025, we aim to have 28% of underrepresented ethnic and racial groups in our workforce. We are also aiming to hit net zero emissions by 2050, to continue or to hit continuous improvement towards a goal of zero incidents in the workplace, sustain leading ESG reporting standards, And as you can see, there's a series of goals. Some of the ones that stand out the most. We aim to have a workforce comprised of 40% women by 2025, and we are on target to hit that. And also by having to have representation on the board by 40% of women and 20% of underrepresented ethnic and racial groups by 2025 as well. 6% people with disabilities by 2025, 70% workplace representation of U.S. veterans by 2025. As you can see, it's a pretty assertive, aggressive targets that Enbridge has committed to, but that's because of how serious the company takes these goals. We understand that in order to be able to generate value for shareholders, or for a company to be able to generate value and sustain its value generation, it needs to create value in all directions. So that means creating value to the communities that we work within, creating value for the environment. So those are all things that we take very seriously. And if we go to the next slide, please. Okay, so now that you have a bit of an idea of what Enbridge is all about, let's talk a little bit about what the Technology and Innovation Lab is. About 6 years ago, 5 years ago, and as part of a digital transformation strategic planning process that took place at Enbridge, always in an effort to stay at the forefront and looking to continue to become more efficient each time. Strategic decisions get made, and one of the initiatives that derived from this strategic planning process back then was the need for the company to create its own technology and innovation lab. A lab where we would be able to experiment with new technologies and be able to test out ideas and theories, if you will. So ideas would come into the lab and from the different business units for products or for solutions to address specific problems, right? And we would be, as a lab, we would be tasked with exploring those ideas and comparing them against the skill sets that we had in order to see if a solution could be developed that would leverage our capacity, our capabilities, and improve or optimize performance, and by improving asset utilization, by improving asset health. When I talk about assets, I'm talking about the different pieces of equipment or inventory of things that Enbridge owns and has across North America. Also, these solutions would aim to enable our workforce to achieve our ESG goals and also to improve customer experience. And all of this would be done with a focus on data. So our main area of specialization and expertise is analytics, data analytics, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. Leveraging other modern technologies, modern methodologies and advanced technologies along the way. If we move to the next slide, please. We're going to see a video that probably best describes what the lab was being back in 2019 envisioned to become. And you will see our CIO gives a few words, our VP of TIS for liquid pipelines and corporate, and also our lab director, Mr. Tony Koo. If you could please play the video.
Data is the fuel for unlocking value. through digital technologies like machine learning, artificial intelligence. More data, better data drives better predictions. One of the things the lab is going to do is power the data engine to gather a lot more of the data, get the data to be refined as a fuel, and make that fuel available for the applications of new technologies.
For Enbridge, technology really is about making the things that we do even better, delivering them faster, providing it more cost effectively, and driving a new level of performance.
Really trying to deliver some three outcomes: productivity, collaboration, and creativity.
It's about getting the teams together in a boundaryless way.
The environment is supposed to allow for those teams to work together. So the whole idea is this place for them to collaborate, to be creative, to think outside the box.
Experts from integrity, from infrastructure planning, from capacity management, from field ops, technology specialists, freeing the experts up from the routine grunt work of data gathering and getting them to apply their ideas and their energy to using unconventional ways that will unlock new value.
This is Enbridge's bold decision to make some investments in the technology and back into the business as well.
This is really providing a platform for innovation, and our ability to experiment and play around with advanced technologies, but use that in a way that solves some of our toughest business challenges is truly galvanizing.
Awesome. So there you have it. That video really does a really good job in conveying what the vision was at that time. And now, 4 years later, I'm happy to report that most of that has been accomplished. At this point, we have 3 lab locations: one in Houston, one in Calgary, one in Edmonton, and we are about 80 people strong, where about 40 of those people are employees at this point, and the other 40 are a mix of contractors and vendors. And at times, we have been up to upwards of 100. The reason why we have, or one of the reasons, I guess, why our teams are comprised of both employees and contractors and vendors is because as a lab, as you can imagine, it's not that we're always working on the same product and by developing it and then sustaining that product until the end of time. No, as a lab, we test out ideas, right? So we need to be able to grow and shrink on a dime, basically, depending on what the priorities are and which ideas, the nature of the products that we are going to be working on. Sometimes the teams are as little as 5 people, and sometimes, you know, they are as many as 25 people. So all sorts of different products, and some of them are done within a few months, and some of them take a little bit longer. Eventually, those products, the ones that actually make it to the end, right to the finish line, those ones then get passed on. They transition over to the business, and they transition for sustainment to what we call a sustainment team, so that our teams within the lab, they get reshuffled and then reallocated to whatever new products are waiting in the funnel of ideas that are waiting to be worked on by the lab. So very dynamic, as you can see, and our approach is 3-pronged, as you can see on this slide. The first one being people, obviously, the most important part. So acquiring top talent, critical skills in data science, cloud technologies, machine learning, artificial intelligence, predictive analytics, design thinking for our user experience designers, and experienced digital leaders, right? Digital leaders that are transformational in nature and that have an agile mindset. Another strategy on the people front of things is we look to also upskill and grow internal employees from other divisions, into product owners for the lab, into data engineers, data scientists, because their backgrounds usually they do align very well with the kind of work that they would be doing as product owners or as data scientists or business analysts, what have you, right? Cross-functional teams also consist of business operators, technology architects, and digital specialists who all work together to develop our products. The second prong is in the area of methods and mindsets, and I have to say probably the two main components of these are agile on the one hand, agile in both of its faces. I'm going to call it faces, like two faces of a coin. On the one face, we have agile development, which provides us with the frameworks, with the tools, with the ceremonies, and everything that makes agile, such a great methodology to embrace when it comes to the distribution of work. But on the other hand, we also have agile, the face of agile that has to do with culture, with collaboration, with inclusion, with innovation and self-organization. And that side of agile is all about mindset, right? So we promote an agile culture within the lab, and that is to say, people that have a certain mindset, a mindset that allows them to see situations and things in a certain or a particular way. People that look at problems and they see opportunities. People that understand that different peoples have different perspectives, and trying to understand another person's perspective is just another way to grow and another way to contribute to probably a common or shared goal, etc. So it's that kind of a mindset that makes the work that we do possible. So very, very, very important. So when we interview people, they go through actually 4 different interviews here in the lab, and one of them is a fit interview, where the agile mindset is basically what we are trying to determine, right? Does this person have a mindset that would allow them to see the challenges that we face in the right or in the most positive way, right? And then we also have design thinking, which is a human-centric approach to problem solving, and that gets used quite a lot when we are, especially when we're in the initial phases of developing a product, when we're still trying to define the problem statement, with a problem to be solved, and solutions. At that point, there's a brainstorming of solutions that could possibly address that problem. So design thinking comes into play there quite a lot. And lastly, we have the technology piece, right? As I mentioned before, we worked with advanced technologies, just the latest and greatest out there, which is great because on the one hand, it provides us with a bigger breadth of possibilities or of tools that we can leverage, or platforms and technologies and what have you. On the other, also it provides for more innovation, because people like technologists, as you are, that we like to play with new toys all the time, right? So that's also part of the perks of working in the lab. So using the full spectrum of digital technologies in all of our areas of specialization. All of the products that we build, because of their vast amounts of data, they are all cloud-based. So we use Microsoft Azure as our cloud platform, and with all its ever-expanding set of cloud services. And that's a bit about our approach in the lab. If we could move on to the next slide, Penny, please. All right, so let's take a look at some of our products. Maybe let's go on to the first one. If we can move to the next slide. Oh, I think, yeah, Orion. So this is Orion. Orion is an application that was developed to initially digitize all of our assets along the pipeline network in such a way that it would allow for different people in different jobs to understand and know what's going on and what kind of flows we are experiencing in different sections of the pipeline. So essentially, it digitizes these PFDs. Not sure if you're familiar with the term. They're process flow diagrams. It makes them interactive, essentially to answer three core questions. Which assets are critical at our terminals? Are our liquid pipeline facilities right-sized for the proposed operational changes? And identifying low flow or no flow piping. That's very important because if you can imagine, whenever there is a section of the pipeline that has not had any oil flow through it for an amount of time, for a period of time, that can cause corrosion to start a little bit earlier than desired. And by knowing what's going on in every single section of our pipeline, we can make sure that the whole of the pipeline is being utilized in a balanced way, if you will. And the software will actually even recommend paths for the oil to flow down. So very interesting, but I can't get into too much detail about the products, but let it suffice to say that this product has already more than paid for itself, and it's being used by over 200 people right now in the organization. If we can go to the next one, please. Okay, so this is ROW. It's our right-of-way management tool. And what it is, as you can imagine, we have about, Penny, please keep me honest on this one. Is it 21,000 miles of pipeline in our network?
I want to say that there's potentially more than that because of the acquisitions that we've done.
So we own the largest pipeline network in North America, guys. So that's a lot of pipeline. And we carry 25% of the crude oil that travels in North America on a day-to-day basis. So that's a lot of oil, and that's a lot of pipeline. So the pipeline is, as you can imagine, it goes across a country, right? And it subdivides into smaller pipelines and what have you. We need to make sure that the integrity of the pipeline is maintained, and we will, go to any length to make sure that the pipeline is not threatened and that its integrity is intact. So one of the things that we do for that is we have an airplane that flies up and down the length of the pipelines every week. And what they are doing is trying, up until very recently, there was, the pilot was actually looking down to see, to visually check and see what kinds of things there might be on the right of way that could pose threats of any kind to the pipeline. With the development of the right-of-way management tool, we have leveraged a machine learning model that detects identified threats with imagery taken during the patrol flights. And it shows, like, for example, it's the model had to learn what everything was, right? So, for example, you see that tractor there or that backhoe, whatever it is, that piece of machinery there next to the pipeline. So the software would have seen it, with the cameras that are attached to the airplane, and it would have identified that it is a piece of machinery, and it would have classified it as a potential threat. And it will do this with anything that it sees, right? Sometimes it may be a vehicle, sometimes it may be an animal. In any case, like, it will alert the operators of things that might potentially represent threats to our pipeline system. If we go to the next one, Penny, please. Okay, so this is called ELIS, and it's an external leak identification system. This one is usually mostly used at very remote locations where it's really hard to to send someone out every day to check on things to make sure that there is no leaks or anything. So there is a camera attached to the I think you may see it on the extreme left post or pillar that's there. That's labeled as number 1. So that's the camera there, and it's looking down to the base of the pump station to see if there is any visual signs of oil leakage on the ground. And it's constantly monitoring it, and it's sending data constantly via satellite to a central information center, where an alarm is raised the minute that any sign of any leaks are shown, essentially. And then that that allows us to make more efficient use of our time by only visiting those locations when it's warranted, right? Okay, so let's move to the next one. Integrity engine. So what this one does is basically it combines the output from 2 or more different integrity or risk assessment systems that are designed to collect data and analyze through different technologies if any particular sections of the pipeline might be at risk because of levels of corrosion, whether it is internal corrosion or external corrosion. So for example, in this one, you're looking at those 3 folks are looking at a section of a pipeline, and I don't know if you can see it, but there is two different rectangles there. One is yellow and one is red. And what they are doing, but basically what Integrity Engine is doing is it identified a section of the pipeline where 2 different systems or 2 different sources of information said that section of the pipeline, based on totally different data, could be at risk. So when you have 2 different systems or 2 different sources of information tell you the same thing about the same specific spot, then you definitely want to look deeper into it, right? So that warrants a much deeper inspection. So that's what Integrity Engine does. It takes data from different sources of information, and it combines it, and it pinpoints exactly areas or spots that need to be investigated at a deeper level. If we go to the next one, please. Energy Optimizer. What this one does is, as you can imagine, we have all like hundreds or maybe thousands of pumps stations all across North America. They are in different regions, different jurisdictions, in different time zones. And what happens is they all consume energy. Like they draw energy from the local energy utility, right? And different utility companies in different regions they have different rates for the energy consumption at different hours of the day. So what Energy Optimizer does is it takes into account how much the compressor or whatever piece of equipment needs to work in order to output whatever it needs to output over how long a period of time. And it will calculate based on the best rates and the best schedules. It will suggest, okay, if we actually schedule the work in this particular fashion, then we will spend X amount of dollars on our energy costs this month. Whereas if we don't do it this way and we just run the machine straight through, then we would be spending twice as much. So it's a very good tool to have, and so far it's already paying for itself as well, because it's allowing us to save in energy costs and make our usage a lot more efficient. If we go to the next one, okay, so that's it for products. I mean, we do have other products, but in the spirit of staying within time frame, we're going to focus on those 4 or 5. Hoping that I was able to give you a little bit of an idea of the kinds of products that we are developing here internally for the company. And what else? Oh, maybe one thing I'd like to point out that I didn't mention is the fact that I did mention that some products make it to the finish line and some others don't, right? And let me explain a little bit more about that. See, we have a lot of ideas come through, and some of them look really good on paper. So they pass the first test, the first assessment of the idea in terms of value to be delivered and all sorts of different criteria that are taken into consideration. But sometimes once you actually start working on them, you realize that maybe one of the assumptions that you had made is not correct, or some factor comes into play that was not originally accounted for. And what happens is that it makes that product maybe not as feasible anymore. And what ends up happening is if it's not feasible, or if it's not gonna deliver the value that it was supposed to deliver, or anything that is not according to plan, then it is a good idea at that point to revisit the roadmap, to revisit the strategy, and determine whether it is still an idea that we want to continue to pursue, because it may at some point cease to be something that might be worthwhile, right? So we will take, in those cases, we will try and fail as fast as we can, fail fast, fail forward, meaning that we want to obviously learn, to keep the learning, whatever it is, from the exercise, and just like take it as an experiment, right? Because that's what these products are, especially in the beginning. In the current slide that you're looking at, it's just a quick illustration to show the difference between an agile process in software development versus the waterfall process. The one on the top, the waterfall, as you can see, it's very linear, and it's a traditional way when things. If you have let's say a project management certification from from PMI, a PMP, this is the way that you would have probably learned to manage a project. There is analysis stage where a scope is defined and all of these variables, and that's when you basically draw the roadmap, and then you start working on each piece phase by phase, and then the actual output, the actual value is not really seen until the very end. And if you involve, well, usually it's a good idea to involve users and the client and the business stakeholders, obviously to make sure that we're working on the right thing. But in the waterfall process, they're usually only involved at the very beginning, and they don't get to actually see the product or test the product until the very finished. And at that point, it's if somewhere along the way we lost our way and the product doesn't end up being or providing the value that originally was envisioned, then it's very hard, right? Because you have to almost start over. In an agile process, as you can see below, it's incremental. The output and the value are incremental. So there's iterations, we call them, which actually we also refer to them as sprints. In our case, we work in 2-week sprints, where each sprint has its little mini design stage, build stage, and test stage, because we're working on a particular set of features that we want to be able to complete by the end of the product increment. So you can see how the Swiss Army knife, basically after the first sprint, it already has one feature, which is the blade. The end of the second sprint, it has another feature, which is I think that's the nail file or whatever, and so on and so forth, so that at the very end, you have exactly what you needed, and the users and or the clients are involved in the process. So we test with them every step of the way. So we make sure that what we're building is, in alignment with what their expectations are. So we take their feedback into account every step of the way, and we deliver value every step of the way as well. So that at the end, even if the product has less features than the one up on the top, those like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 features that it has are probably the only features that it needed. And it probably ended up costing less, taking less time, etc. So that's just to illustrate a little bit about what the Agile Value Delivery Model is all about. If we go to the next slide, please. Okay.
Sorry, do you not see the role?
Not sure if you.
Let me just go back one.
I see the role.
Oh, now I see it. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
Now I see it. Sorry, it was stuck. Yeah. Thank you. And lastly, I would like, hopefully I've given you a bit of an idea of what the lab is all about. At this point, and at any given point in time, usually we are working on anywhere from 4 to 8 different products, and we have a product team devoted to each one of those products. And the roles that you see on the screen right now are the most typical roles that you would find in one of our product teams. And we would have at least one of each of these roles. So we will have a data engineer who helps with the preparing and making the data available. As you can imagine, the data in a company of 10,000 people plus, we have thousands, like literally thousands of different systems that all output some kind of information in all sorts of different formats. And our data engineers have to deal with that. They have to be able to extract data from different sources and arrange that data in a form that our data scientists and developers can utilize in order to build whatever they're building. So that's what the data engineers do. There's the data scientists who bring a deep understanding of big data structures and algorithms, artificial intelligence and machine learning, to help build big data analytic solutions by developing machine learning models, for example, and algorithms, and utilizing all sorts of techniques such as the linear regression and all sorts of different techniques in order to derive insight, the insight that is necessary for our solutions that, for the most part, are designed to be able to predict the future based on history from the data that they are analyzing, essentially. So that's a data scientist. Then we have a DevOps engineer. DevOps engineer, they are the ones that make available the platforms and the tools that our team members use for continuous integration and continuous delivery. So we use Azure DevOps. And there's sort of, usually a DevOps engineer will have, because it is still a fairly new position, right? Fairly new role. But in my experience, having hired quite a few of these folks over the last few years, people that transition over into a DevOps engineer role, they either come with like a systems admin kind of a background on the infrastructure side, or they will have a software development background. Ideally, they would have a little bit of both, and because the DevOps engineer role calls for a little bit of skill in both of those. So you have an idea for those that haven't, that haven't before seen the DevOps engineer or heard much about it. Our full stack developers. A full stack developer is a developer that works on both the front end and the back end of an application. The front end being the part that the user interacts with, so what they see on the screen and what have you, and where the inputs and the outputs are usually reflected. And then the back end being the part of the software where the actual computing takes place. So the data processing takes place and where the data resides and what have you. So we are a Microsoft shop. So most of our the tools that we use are Microsoft tools. So we work, our products are developed mostly, they're cloud native applications, and they our developers program in C#, mostly for the back end, and the front end we have some of our applications are used for a front end, a high code language, and some of them use a no code or low code language or tool. The low code or no code we use OutSystems, and for the high code we use JavaScript with React, so React JavaScript. So that's full stack developer, and then we have the product owner. Oh, and yeah, one other thing that I would like to mention. In an agile team, there is 3 main parts of an agile team. There is the product owner, who basically represents the client, and they focus on defining and helping the team identify what is the right product to build. So the product owner determines that based on all of the things that they took into consideration, to build this product. The product owner has a pretty good idea of what the product vision is, and their job is to convey that vision to the team. That's one part. Second part is the team itself, the development team, right? They're the ones that are in charge of not building the right thing, but of building the thing right. So those are the developers, the data engineers, data scientists, and most of the people on this slide. But then the third component here is the Scrum Master. The Scrum Master is like a coach, like a project manager of sorts in an agile environment, following agile or Scrum methodology, and they will help the team to organize themselves in order to build the thing fast. So build the right thing, build the thing right, and build the thing fast. So Scrum Master coaches the team and acts as a roadblock eliminator. They take on any roadblocks that the team faces, and they try to steer the team clear of those roadblocks so the team can continue to focus on building the product right. Next, we have the technical lead. The technical lead is basically the lead developer. They're usually the most experienced, and because they're the most experienced, they have the most knowledge, and they act as mentors to the more junior teams in the team. And they also take on the responsibility of the application architecture at the beginning. And lastly, we have the UX designer, who is, like I said, is the user experience designer. The way I see user experience is there's two parts to it. There's at the beginning of the project, there is a UX research stage that takes place, and the UX designers at that point, what they do is they interview a lot of the users just to understand how they would use the tool and how they do what they do. And based on that, they go and start working on the wireframing or the actual technical aspect of building the interface. And that's about it. I think that's all I got. If you go to the next slide, I don't think there's anything else.
No, it's just a thank you.
Okay. So I'm hoping I was able to give you a good glimpse of what the lab is all about, what Enbridge is all about, and the kind of positions that we have to hire for. And hopefully this is insightful and helpful. I don't know if there's any questions.
So there is some questions in the chat. I know that Catherine said we can do them at the end. There may be some that, Guillermo, you can actually go in and just respond while Angeli goes on. And then if there's ones that you think should wait, we can do that. So I'm going to pass it over to Angeli now.
Thanks, Penny. Hey, everyone. Thank you for spending your Monday evening with us. And now that you have the insights on what our wonderful technology and lab does, let's take a look at what our infrastructure, cloud, and enterprise architecture team does. You'll get to know what we are doing, but mostly why we are doing. So hopefully this will spark some interest in you, and you will get back with us for any other questions. So with that, the introduction to Enbridge's infrastructure and cloud team. As you have heard, we've been investing steadily in our cloud technologies to improve our operational efficiency and agility. We have migrated many of our applications and our workloads to the cloud, which will enable us to scale rapidly and respond quickly to the changing market conditions. And in this economic instability, changing to a market condition is really important. Now that we are migrating our workloads and applications, we can quickly spin up new resources, applications as needed without necessarily waiting for physical infrastructure to be procured, to be installed. So we are quick to market. And because of all of this benefits and values that cloud is providing, we also see a steady pattern of reducing IT cost, which is very important factor. Okay. So moving to the next slide, the future of Enbridge's cloud is great. We are committed to our technology innovations. As you have heard in this session, we have a lot of innovation going on in the cloud. And this will continue for us to enable ourselves in the cloud journey to drive greater efficiency and agility. We have heard in this session about agile way of doing things. And we definitely see cloud as a key enabler for the digital transformation initiatives. We're always exploring new ways to leverage data, analytics, machine learning, and other emerging technologies to optimize our operations and to continuously enhance our customer experience. And just in Ontario, we have more than 45,000 customers. So you can imagine how important customer experience is for us. And we definitely believe that our key enabler is a digital transformation journey. And we couldn't have done it without the cloud and the cloud team in here. So with that, I will move to the next topic, which is the enterprise architecture team. I am a part of enterprise architecture team and I do the strategy planning. By far, this is one of my favorite jobs I had. And for those of you who are not familiar with what the enterprise architecture is it's simply think about it as a process of aligning what our organization business strategy is. And you're basically taking your business strategy and aligning it with your IT strategy. And to do that, it involves creating a framework of managing and integrating all of our organization systems, process, and data. So think about yourself as when you think about an architect, think about you're a bridge. You're a bridge between business and you're a bridge between an IT, and you're bridging that gap. That's in simple terms how I would like to explain what an enterprise architecture team is. And the goal of our team, enterprise architect team, is to continuously improve the efficiency, the agility, and the effectiveness of Enbridge by providing a holistic view of how our operations are happening and constantly look at identifying opportunities of improvement. And now let's take a look at we are at the right slide. Penny, if you can move to the next slide. Great. So there are various architecture roles and you want to think about architecture components. There are 4 components that make key enterprise architect team. So business architect, there's data, there's application, and there's a technology. All of this, they don't reside in a silo, they actually reside together. And when you think about business architect, think about yourself as somebody who defines business processes, business functions, and capabilities. And this is where the first step in the architecture team begins. And then as you move to the portfolio architect, solution architect, and technology architect role, think about an architect focusing on design and implementation of software applications. Data architecture also manages the organization's data assets, including your databases, data models, governance, all of it. And the technology architects, the domain architects are basically dealing with your infrastructure, your hardware, software that supports the organization operations to meet your business goal. And again, as I mentioned, each of these 4 components, they're always aligned with the organization's strategy and goals so that they can ensure that business and IT can work together seamlessly. So in short, enterprise architecture provides a lot of benefits to organization so that we stay on the top of strategy, so that we can enable decision makers, constantly provide opportunities for improvements, optimize business process, which can lead to cost savings, which can lead to increased productivity, and for the better customer service. So we can constantly, quickly adapt to changing market conditions and the customer needs. So again, as I said, this has been one of my favorite jobs. There is never a dull moment in here. I'm learning business architecture. I'm constantly learning new technologies. I'm learning strategy. So if this sparks your interest, definitely keep an eye on Enbridge. And with that, Penny, I will hand this over to the next speaker, Amit.
Thank you. So we're going to pass it over to Amit, who is part of our HR team.
Thanks, everyone. So my name's Amit. I'm part of the Enbridge Talent Acquisition HR team. Kind of like we had mentioned in the intro, I've been in the team for about 8 years now. Yeah, so a lot of recruitment going on at Enbridge. A lot of positions open. We're looking at a lot of diverse candidates. So I'll kind of just go into some high-level details about what we do, how we recruit, and some of the tools we use. So I kind of just wanted to get into some of our Enbridge values as a company. So in that picture there on the right side, you can see who our CEO is, Greg Ebel there. He just jumped into the CEO role as of January 1st of this year. So we've seen a lot of changes as of then to now. Enbridge is always forever changing, keeping up with times. So nice to see a new smiling face in our organization. So Enbridge core values, we do have 4 of them. It's not just at work. I'll be honest, myself, I really follow these values even outside of work in my everyday life. And I could probably say most, or if not all of our employees could probably say the same. So first one being safety. We want to ensure safety of our communities, our customers, our contractors, our partners, and all of our employees. So what we always kind of try to do is want to approach to identify and prevent any of our safety issues. We always want to make sure we're taking immediate action. Of course, doing that safely. And we always look to kind of improve our safety performance. Next one, integrity. We also want to ensure we are doing the right things truthfully. We want to make sure we take accountability of our actions. We're not looking here to point the finger or blame others, and follow through on our commitments. Respect is huge. We want to ensure we value the contribution of everybody. Take the time to understand everybody, embrace diversity and inclusion, and treat everyone with unfalling dignity. Last one, inclusion. Again, we encourage diverse perspectives for the best decisions. We celebrate our differences as strengths. We foster that sense of belonging as one team, and we champion fairness and equity. So that's just some of our Enbridge values, again, that we kind of practice. If we could just go to the next slide there. So these are just some of our recruitment steps. This is kind of the steps that we go through kind of from start to finish. So the first thing that we want to do is we create a posting and then post that job. So what we do is we connect with our hiring leaders. We work on our postings. We work on our job descriptions. We figure, okay, so this is our role in a data scientist. So I would be connecting with the hiring leader, ensuring we understand what we are looking for and the years of experience that we're looking for. We put together that posting, and we usually, for the most part, a lot of our positions, we like to post them for about 2 weeks. Usually they would come down at about 11:59 p.m. Mountain Time. That's usually kind of our standard process. So after the posting's up for 2 weeks, we would then take that posting down and we look to shortlist. So what we do is we are looking through every single resume, every single candidate that has applied. So, sometimes we might see 50 to 100 candidates. That might not take as long to go through, but sometimes we do receive 400 plus applicants for some of our positions. So you can imagine that's not going to take a day or 2 days. It might take a few days or maybe even up to a week, depending how many applicants we have. But we are going through every single resume, shortlisting. So Usually, I would say our magic number of shortlisting, usually we try to bring it down to maybe 10 to 15 to 20 people. Then we go into a pre-screening process. So pre-screening is we would kind of grab our short list of candidates. So let's say we got 20 people. We want to send a pre-screening video to all 20. We just ask maybe 5 to 6 questions. And it kind of just assesses kind of your understanding of the role and a little bit of our understanding about what you are about. So we would do that pre-screening live video. Then we would maybe narrow that down to, let's say, from 20 maybe down to 8 people that we might be looking to interview. Interviews, for the most part, are done through HireVue. It's very similar to Teams. So we would do an online interview. We could then potentially, if there's a second interview, potentially we might do that in person. So that is kind of our interview process there. If you go to the next slide there for me, please. Once we do the interviews, we would then select our strongest candidate. Then the hiring leader would come to someone like myself to do a salary analysis where we put together kind of a job offer for you, a verbal offer. So what we do is we look at kind of our internal equity. We look at everybody within our organization, what they're paid at when it comes to experience, education, and we would kind of see where our candidate aligns. Once we do that, we would put together that verbal offer. Usually the hiring leader would present that verbal offer to our candidate. If the candidate accepts, again, HR will put together a written offer that would be put together through Workday, sent off. And once that is actually officially accepted, then we get into our background checks, background screening. So for a lot of our, I'd say, IT roles, usually it's just standard background screening, which would be a criminal check, it would be employment verification, and education verification. Usually that onus falls on a candidate just to see how quickly they provide that information. So it can be anywhere from 1 week to 2 weeks. But some of our other roles, like in the control centers or some of our engineering roles where we require drug testing and medical testing, that might take a little bit longer. That might take up to 4 weeks to complete those back checks. Then we kind of get into the onboarding. Onboarding is kind of that last step where our people leader would receive some onboarding tasks, as well as our candidate, or I should now say our new hire, would receive some of these onboarding processes. That's kind of where you kind of go through kind of putting your banking information, selecting your benefits, and then kind of what your first day might look like, your start time, all that kind of stuff. Penny, if we could just go to that next slide for me, please. So these are some of our tools that we use in HR when it comes to job postings, some of the tools we use for interviews, and putting together our offer letters. So Textio is kind of it's an augmented writing tool. So what it does, it's allowing us recruiters to write insightful and inclusive job postings. And that will interest a wide range of diverse candidates. So it's huge to help us find some diverse candidates, helps with diversity. So it just uses some like advanced language as insight to focus on some certain age groups, genders, and some tones. So its insight provides guidance as you write to ensure your tone remains neutral, avoid harmful language, and gendered phrases. So I would put together a job posting. I put it into this program called Textio. It's going to give me a rating. So for example, it could be a horrible job posting, which might be at like 30%, or it could be a very strong job posting. It might be at 90%. And it also gives me insightful words to use. So, I've used this word multiple times, so maybe change it up. Or this word might attract more younger audience. Or this sentence might be more feminine or masculine. Maybe we should kind of be more gender neutral. So it's a very neat tool. A lot of big organizations such as Enbridge, Microsoft, Google, A lot of those organizations are using this program called Textio for their job postings, and we do tend to see a lot more diverse candidates. We got HireView. What I kind of mentioned in some of my last slides, we use HireView for interviews and pre-screening. It's more of a streamlined process for recruiters, hiring leaders, and candidates. So it kind of gives an option for candidates like yourself to go in and select the times that work best for you. So you can have access to the hiring leader's calendar there. I mean, you can kind of pick and choose what time slots work best. So it's a self-scheduling tool, very informative, very, we've had some good feedback on it. And it also reduced bias decisions in that sense where we have hiring leaders that go in and are able to do the interviews together, and as well as assist in increasing diversity. If you go to the next slide for me, please. Workday. Workday, a lot of big organizations do use Workday. We put our job requisitions through Workday. The applications to apply are all done through Workday. Candidates are reviewed through Workday. Offer letters are sent through Workday. It's a very great tool. It's very, it's got some great filters that we can use to assist in speeding up shortlisting processes. We do intake calls / we have intake guides. That's more what we use to connect with our hiring leaders when we're putting together our job postings. A big conversation we're always having with our hiring leaders, Enbridge really pushes for this, is diversity and having diverse candidates, having diverse conversations. So when I have my intake calls with my hiring leaders, every single time, we always remind them, you know what, when we get to that interview process, when we're doing our shortlisting, we always want to keep diversity as one of our forefronts. Of course, we want to hire our strongest candidates, but we want to have strong, diverse candidates. Then we also use LinkedIn Talent Insights. So what that is it kind of helps to a platform. So it's talent intelligence, which platforms and empowers you to make smart workforce and hiring decisions. We use it all the time to fill hard to fill roles. And it's a great way to connect with candidates. So I use LinkedIn all the time. We do a lot of sourcing through LinkedIn. So if you haven't done so already, I would strongly suggest updating your LinkedIn profiles, ensuring you're active on LinkedIn, because we are always using that. And you know what? You can actually apply to, I think, pretty much all of our positions through LinkedIn. If you go to the next slide for me, please, Patty. I think that was all I want to say. I just want to remind all, we are trying our best to post a lot of our positions on Hispanotech's website there. So please, if you do something and if it's of your interest, please make sure to apply. We are working with Hispanotech to ensure we are using them as much as we can. So I want to thank you for your time, and I will pass it back over to, I'm not sure, Penny, if you're jumping in here.
I think we'll put it on to Catherine for the ones that didn't get responded to, but I think there's questions for all three of you.
Perfect.
All right, thank you, Penny, and thank you, Guillermo, Anjali, and Amit. I believe that this was indeed a very insightful conversation for everyone that was able to attend. You all were able to see Enbridge is definitely a lot more than what we've thought up until now, and it's definitely pursuing a lot of innovative and creative ideas. I believe that all questions, Guillermo was on fire. Like you got a lot of questions on the chat, and you've actually gotten back to everyone. I would say, as a general inquiry, might be if anyone here in this session gets to see a posting, as you mentioned, Amit, that fits the criteria that they are interested in, or if they would like to get in contact with any one of you, what is the best way to further on those conversations? Because we all know that the job post is just, the first step, but usually discussing or having the opportunity to talk to people that are inside the organization definitely gives a more clear perspective of, if it's a good fit or not, ultimately for both parties.
Most definitely. So when it comes to that, I also did kind of notice some questions coming along in regards to kind of years of experience for some of these roles.
Correct.
So we definitely always in our job postings, it will say how many years of experience is required, what the education requirements are. They of course fluctuate based on the level of the role, if it's a more junior role, senior role, etc. So that would almost every time be in our job posting. When it comes to the questions in regards to the role itself, I would suggest we do have them in our job postings, but if you have more questions, you can always email careers@enbridge.com, and we would try our best to, of course, get back to you as soon as possible. If not, put you in touch with the hiring leader, or the hiring leader would reach out to you, or maybe a recruiter like myself. So definitely, if you are intrigued or have more questions or interested, I would definitely, you can reach out careers@enbridge.com as well. And all of our postings, we don't go into too much details in our job postings because you want to kind of keep them short and sweet, straight to the point. So definitely, yeah, all that stuff would be on our Enbridge Careers website.
All right, that's perfect. That's great. Remember people to stop by Enbridge Careers website to check now and then what's happening. Follow them on LinkedIn so that you can get to see as well any updates that are made on their page, and you will also be able to set alerts for any job postings that come through Enbridge. Obviously, go through Hispanotech if there is absolutely anything that you see that connects with your experience or where you want to go next in your career. Make sure to reach out that way, because I'm pretty sure that there is a special connection through this channel. That all is done with the intention of leveraging the beauty of networking and this partnership that for sure is going to be amazing for all of you.
I
Any
did see
other
a
questions
question,
before
sorry.
we call it? Oh, go ahead.
I
Do
did
you
see a
want to
question. I
say
thought I might
something,
as well
Freddy?
attack it now.
Please do
So
so.
our roles are, for the most part, they're posted all over. Well, I'd say 50-50. Some of our roles are maybe just specific to one city or one province or state. But I'd say a lot of the roles are open to other areas. So, we would be posting in Edmonton, Calgary. I'd say these are the ones I'm going to name are maybe more of our central or our bigger hubs or areas. So Edmonton, Calgary. If we move over, I'd say Toronto, Toronto and area. So like Toronto, maybe Chatham. And then moving over, I would probably say we go down to, it could be like in Minnesota, like Duluth. And then Houston. I'd probably say those are maybe some of our bigger ones. But we do post in all those areas. We have positions in all those areas. And then when it comes to some of our work schedules, I think Guillermo did answer that question. But if the role is a hybrid role, you'd be working Monday, Tuesdays in the office, Wednesday from home, Thursday in the office, and Friday at home. So 3 days in the office, 2 days at home. I mean, some leaders might be flexible when it comes to certain things, when it comes to, things in life or whatever it might be. So, but that is standard throughout the organization.
That's important to fully understand what are your rules or expectations when hybrid work comes around. So, as mentioned before, please do not hesitate to look into our career website. I will be sending over the link right now. And as well, stop by Enbridge, continue to learn from this amazing organization. And if there's anything else you get to need, please do not hesitate to reach out to us directly at Hispanotech. Thank you so much for everyone who attended this meeting. I'm sorry, I'm trying to multitask and it's not working in my favor. All right, so this is the job boards, and thank you everyone again. It was an amazing presentation. Thank you, Guillermo. Thank you, Penny, for organizing this conversation. Thank you, Angelia and Amit, for sharing your knowledge, your experience, and what is Enbridge really up to these days. Looking forward for our next opportunity.
Thank you very much, everyone, for having us. And we hope to see you checking out our job board if there happens to be a position you're interested in. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.